heaven?
No. It's Iowa.
Ben, I really like that story you wrote, but can you make it more Minnesotan?
Yeah, I think I want to call it Oop.
We're talking American fiction on Pot of Dreams.
How did you come to write this book?
What really struck me was that too few books were about my people. Where are our stories? Where's our representation?
Would you give us the pleasure of reading an excerpt?
Yo, Sharonda, girl, you be pregnant again? If I is, Ray Ray's gonna be a real father this time around. Thank
you. Monk, your books are good, but they're not popular. Editors, they want a black book.
They have a black book. I'm black, and it's my book.
You know what I mean.
Look at what they publish. Look at what they expect us to write. I just want to rub their noses in it.
I be standing outside in the night.
Deadbeat dads, rappers, crack. You said you wanted black stuff. That's black, right?
I see what you're doing. We sold your book.
No.
We believe Mr. Lee has written a bestseller.
It's a joke.
The most lucrative joke you've ever told.
Now, is Stag a pseudonym?
Yeah.
Mr. Lee can't use his real name.
Is this based on your actual life?
Yeah, you think some bitch-ass college boy can come up with that shit?
No, I don't.
Can I ask what you were in for? Was it murder?
You said that, not me.
They ran 300,000 copies.
Your books change people's lives.
They're offering $4 million for movie rights.
Yes! The dumber I behave, the richer I get. This has gone too far.
Stag Arley is still on the run from authorities.
You haven't done anything. It's not like they can arrest you.
Wish I could go back to not selling books.
Is it bad to cater to people's tastes?
People want to love you, Monk. You should let them love all of you.
There's already so much buzz because of the movie deal.
Michael B. Jordan is circling.
We want to put him on the cover in one of those scarves, I guess you would call them, tied around his head.
A do-rag?
Do-rag, that's it. Do-rag and a tank top with the muscles showing.
Somebody call the fire department.
We're thinking we can get it out.
So, Pot of Dreams. You listen, we pod.
If you listen, we will pod. Yep, there we go.
There we go.
We'll assist on the tag.
Thank you. So, American fiction. What is that, Eric?
Oh, I was gonna say you can pod in your pants, but that's not very funny. So it's inappropriate. Sorry.
I don't even think I get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
You can pod in your underwear. You can pod in your overalls.
That's why I didn't finish the thought.
You can pod in any outfit you want.
You can pod nude.
It fits with anything. Yeah. Oh, you can. Yeah. You can pod in your
I'm doing it right
suit,
now.
baby. Yeah. Heck yeah. There we go.
Okay. Sorry, Kevin. Continue.
No, that's brilliant, Eric. I'm glad we took that time.
It was worth it, right?
All right, American fiction. So this is about a professor, probably of English, and he's a book writer, and he's always getting notes that his books aren't black enough, and he tries to write his books, and I don't think people realize his genius. At least that's in his mind. His books are brilliant to him, but he finally gives up and writes a black novel.
Well, he hate writes it. He does it out of spite, and he tries to make it as like cliched and ham-fisted as possible, right? I mean,
yes, very reductive.
Black tragedy. They want black people enduring misery and suffering and triumphing in spite of it, or keeping a grin on their face despite all the oppression. And he just does like what he thinks is a cartoonish version of that.
And the book is called My Pathology, and he originally writes it like how it's supposed to be spelled, and then he changes a sort of like Ebonics version of it.
Yes.
I thought that was a pretty funny joke.
Oh yeah.
And then he decides to call it fuck.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he does change.
He's trying to do the like producers scare them off, and they're like, "Oh well, we'll call it fuck. We don't care." But yeah, I mean, stepping back, Jeffrey Wright's the lead here. He's, he's the struggling author. I mean, relatively speaking, he's not as beloved as he'd like to be. Got personal stuff going on. He has to have sabbatical because he used the N-word, much to the chagrin of one of the white college student ladies in his class.
Yeah, no, I think that sets up the movie pretty well.
It's perfect. It's a perfect intro.
So yeah, he wants to talk about a short story that's title has the N-word in it, but the one of his college students doesn't want to have anything to do with it, so he can't even have the conversation about it.
He's like, I'm over it, and she walks out and files a complaint.
Yeah, and then he gets in trouble, so he has to take a sabbatical.
Little bit of a shot at like millennials are too sensitive, or like Gen Z's too sensitive, right? There's a little bit of that in there.
Yeah,
sure. Well, yeah, I think we're setting up white liberals as to be kind of hypocrites and silly and centering themselves, but not actually being all that progressive. I think, yeah, but that sets the stage. Like, yeah, she can't take it, but she's offended for a word that's meant to oppress black people, and this is a white lady who's upset about it. Yeah, maybe it's a dig at Gen Z, but it's also, what right does she have to be offended on behalf of this guy teaching the class?
Yes, you're right, because she's a white woman, but it's also, I think, a nod to the like everybody's offended kind of culture that we live in today.
Sure, but he's trying to have a discussion about language and meaning, and we can't even have the topic because even saying the word is so upsetting. So then the entire discourse
educate her.
Well, have a conversation, but the whole discourse is just shut down. You can't have discourse because even though he's fine with it and he's trying to create this environment of introspection and reflection and discussion, it gets shut down. Because that's not what this person.
That ever happened in any of your college classes for you? Anything like that? Or
no, not in the middle aughts. Not in the middle aughts.
Yeah, this was like a generational thing. I bet now you hear that kind of shit all the time.
Oh, I'm sure that stuff happens, but
I need to leave the class because I can't be a party to this.
Sure, this oppression of you that you don't seem to be aware of, that you're complicit in. Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's a great setup. It's quick, it's pithy, and it sets the plot in motion because he has to, leave. He has to take a break. He doesn't want to, and then it forces him to see his family. And there's all sorts of just unresolved family stuff that's just been lingering. He's got a divorced sister, a mom who's got memory loss, a brother who just recently came out of the closet, has been, repressed his entire life. So we're setting up all sorts of interesting stuff about identity and what do you owe other people and what do you owe yourself and what is authenticity. All sorts of great stuff. Anyway, sorry,
No, that's right. So just to recap, he writes this book, and to his dismay, it goes over very well, and he actually sells it, gets movie rights to it, sells the rights to the movie, and
makes a lot of money, which he needs too.
Yeah, he needs it. His mom is having dementia issues, so he has to pay for a long-term care facility for her. And no one else in the family, due to divorce and other struggles, that they couldn't pay for it. So yeah, the money comes in handy. But also,
then his fucking sister dies. Like, there's that whole
very early at the end.
Yeah,
Tracy Ellis Ross.
Yeah,
she's great. She's great in the movie, and she's always great in everything. And then it's like, bam, just dead. Like, whoa, that kind of hit me.
I was shocked when that happened. It's like, did not expect that to happen. But it forces him to become the caretaker because he deferred that role to her. But yeah, no, he's got, all the stuff going on. But yeah, it's all. The movie is incredibly written. I just want to emphasize everything ties together really nicely and interestingly. But he needs the money, which forces him to sell out. and it's just absurd that nobody catches on that it's a bit and it's a grift, and not even a grift because it's just nobody understands. Everybody just thinks it's so great. It just can't help that everybody loves it. And of course, the irony is that he's written stuff that he thought was more thoughtful and engaging, and that stuff didn't make money. It's great tension between commerciality and making money as an artist, and like making what you want. And there's just this always tension between making money and making whatever. It's just great. Sorry, I love this movie. That's not obvious.
Yeah, and we can go back to the stage where he's writing it. I thought that was really lovely. This is breaking the fourth wall. Keith David
shows up. Yeah, it's a great cameo. Oh yeah,
that was a great scene.
I didn't love that. Like, is it Issa Rae? I didn't love that. Like, he saw that she did it and was like, "Oh, I'll just basically do what she did. I'll write a book that is written from like a ultra black perspective." And I didn't love that, the interaction between the two of them. I didn't know what he was trying to say. I didn't love that whole piece of it. I wish he wrote this book and did the whole bit, but didn't tie in this other artist, this other author, and what she was going through. Didn't love that. I don't know.
You should talk about the interaction they have when they're on the. So he gets selected to be in a panel that gets to decide some award, some prestigious literary award. Talk about the conversation he has with Issa Rae, which
that for sure. But to start, doesn't he go to she is reading an excerpt from her book?
Yeah, and he doesn't like it. He despises that
and he's like,
type
"This is
of book.
stupid," and I hate this. Yeah,
I hate that we're defined and put in these categories. And that movie forces him with plot mechanics to have to sell out. Ultimately, like it sets everything in motion, and it forces him to, have to see the merits of it. Right? He gets more acclaim and prestige from this book than he does from anything he's ever written by far.
And Issa Rae's there just to show him what the public actually wants,
right?
And you can see why they want it. They're saying how the rich liberals want to read about the suffering so that they don't feel as bad about it.
Is that a thing though? Is that for real? Is that a concept that even exists? Are there books like that? Yeah,
there's trauma porn. Push was the movie based on Precious by Sapphire.
Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire, is I think the correct verbiage. I think, but I get what you're saying. Yep. Well, what is 12 Years a Slave to you? Let's step aside from books for a second. I'm sure there's books like this that exist, but what is the point of 12 Years a Slave? What do you glean from 12 Years a Slave?
Well, it's history. I mean, it's a historical recount of something that actually happened, right?
Sure, but you could just describe that. Why show a movie? What do you get from seeing it filmed?
Taking the time. Anything. Why do a movie about Napoleon? It's the same idea.
Okay. Interesting. I see that to me as a movie that's reveling.
Movie. Why make a movie about Jesus? So
if you let's make a fictional movie about slavery then. Then let's make it not historical.
And have the point? Guy named Django get revenge and
we can talk about. I don't want to talk about Tarantino's comic book sensibilities about history. I don't care. But I'm saying what if you had a movie that's like 12 Years a Slave, but it's not actually based on an actual historical event? Since that seems to be the distinction in your brain, would that be a trauma porn if you created a fictional character that endured slavery and oppression? What about The Butler? I mean,
yeah, I get what you're saying. I think the main issue with this movie's discussing is that that's all we see for Black culture. We don't see the books that he's writing, which aren't Black enough, are not. Nobody cares about them because they're not the tropes of Black culture,
right? Because it's mostly white audiences that want those movies, that go see them.
But why? Why though? I don't understand.
The movie posits, American Fiction posits, that it's because you watch that and you feel less racist and less guilty about your advantages. You see that, oh look, well, I watched 12 Years a Slave. Look at me, I'm engaging with racism. I watched Amistad. I'm engaging with race. I watched The Color Purple. Look at me, I'm so progressive by just sitting and watching a movie. or reading
But
a
like
book.
The Wire, I watched The Wire because that makes me feel. Does The Wire fit into that whole
well, I mean, we could
idea?
do a billion. No, I think The Wire is an excellent deconstruction of how crime and the drug trafficking works. That's, I think, a whole
but it's
other
also
thing.
a depiction of black culture as
But that's
drug
a part
dealers
of that
and gangsters.
story.
You know,
The whole point isn't look at how bad these black folks are and look at how they endure their suffering, and they take it on the chin. I think The Wire's about something else, but I'm just giving you you can disagree with the movie, Eric. I ultimately don't care. My point
I kind of do. I guess that's my point.
Wouldn't an example be that there are? So, I mean, of course, there are some examples.
I agree that there is not enough non-drug dealer slavery depictions of black people in major media. Like, I 100% agree with that. There needs to be more like black stories that aren't just about that shit. That I think is true. But okay. I guess I don't understand why slavery and gangsters and drug deal, like, why is that what gets made? Is that because that's what white people want? I guess I don't understand if that.
Well, it's all about making money, right? Like, all the stuff that gets funded is what will make money. That's how movies work.
12 Years a Slave a hit? Did it make a lot of money?
I don't know. You asked Brad Pitt. He produced it. I don't know. It probably made its money back. It probably was on the whole, made its money. I don't know.
Moonlight. Would you consider that? I would say that's a different kind of movie. I would say that's a different kind of movie than the traditional gangs. But I mean, there is poverty. There is, like, you know, projects and all that stuff in there. Does that fit into the narrative of this movie that kind of stuff is trash?
Right, but the question is not that it's trash.
Would Monk like Moonlight? Would he think Moonlight was trash?
I don't know that he'd like Moonlight very much, but I don't know. You may ask me what a fictional character would like as far as another piece of fiction. I think the whole thing is the tension between capitalism and making something that people will actually watch versus something that maybe people need or that expands consumption. People pick out media that they like. We are pigs eating the slop that we like, and the whole premise of this is that the stuff that tends to make money is stuff about black people suffering. That's the whole premise of the movie, and it hypothesizes him making a cartoonish version of that does really, really well. I have no idea about every black movie, every TV show, every book ever made. Some probably have not been about that stuff that have been a hit, but this creates an underlying tension. What do? Do you give the audience what they want? What will make money? What will make you money? Do you try to make something that's different, that's outside those tropes, but then it doesn't make any money, and then it further makes no money? And that's one of these problems for Jeffrey Wright's character, Monk, the heart of this movie. Like, hey, I made something I don't believe in that I think is slop, but it made a lot of money and gives me attention, which I really like. And it's also like, that's intoxicating. But then all this other stuff that's more important gets shoved away. I have no idea about how, you can crunch the numbers, but I don't know. I think that it's an interesting look at how black characters and black people are portrayed in media, books, movies, TV shows, whatever. I have no idea. I don't have enough aggregate data to really have an in-depth argument about this topic here. But I think there's probably something to this movie that suggests this is how a lot of black narratives are portrayed. I don't know. That's a good question, at any rate. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, the point is that his books that don't deal with black people in particular don't sell well, and even though they aren't from a black person's perspective necessarily, they're in the black African studies section of the bookstore.
Yeah, and he's like, the only thing black about this book is the ink or something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's frustrated. He gets labeled, and it doesn't get read. Doesn't make money off of it, and so he gets to be jealous and frustrated and annoyed by each way. It's a mix of those emotions.
Were his books then like white characters and not any black people in them? Is that what we're supposed to glean from that?
I assume that there were black characters in it, but race was not the central component of the narrative. The narrative wasn't about what it means to be black in America. It wasn't like, here's Harlem in the 1960s. It wasn't stuff like that. They were characters who happened to be black and other stuff was going on. But
he was a fiction writer, though, right?
Yeah, he's writing fiction. Right, yeah. Fiction books that
You think he's like science fiction? He's like a big
no? He
space
seems
and
like
time travel dork.
I don't think so. No. Did you get the vibes that he was a science fiction author watching this?
I didn't get those vibes. No.
A lot of sword and sorcery type of books.
Big elves and dwarves and goblins and shit. No.
No, I got the vibe that he was a very stuffy literary guy who wanted to be taken very seriously. Was what he wanted. Yeah, I got that vibe.
Yeah,
like a Jonathan Franzen type kind of.
I don't think I know
legal thrillers.
Okay, a Grisham. He's like a Grisham guy, or no.
No.
All right, we can.
No, it sounds like he writes books that he feels are very underappreciated. That's all we need to know.
Yeah. Although his neighbor across the street has read his books.
She's read one of them, thought it was good.
Yeah.
Well, she actually read two.
She read Fuck.
Yeah. Which she liked a lot.
I didn't understand why he kept that from her for so long. Like, why did he hide that he wrote that book? It didn't make sense to me.
He hid it from everybody. He was embarrassed by it.
Yeah, but your family or this girl you're dating, like, tell her that you fucking wrote it. I didn't understand that.
Well, then he has to admit that he wrote it as a joke, and that the fact that you like it means you're stupid. Or at least he thinks you're stupid because it was a joke.
Yeah, and nobody else gets that it's a joke except for him. And Issa Rae, there's the irony there that she sees it and she's like, oh, she's the only other person that's like, hey, this book is cartoonish and silly.
Game recognizes game.
Right. And it's tough because you, as a person, want prestige, and then like if that's what the market dictates, that's what you'll make. Why do you remake move? Why do we do superhero movies? Why do we get remakes and sequels? Because those are the ones that tend to make money, and that's not like original movies kill and do really well. And then if that happened and sequels got universally rejected, we wouldn't get as many sequels. That's how capitalism.
So it's like the slavery IP. Is that what you're saying? Like studio execs know how slavery always works. Let's just roll that out.
Clearly, that's what the book publishers want. That's the kind of book they wanted. His literary agents like, we need something a little more, black. And he's trying to make that happen. It's like, this is what people want. Like, he uses the whole analogy with the whiskey bottle, right? Like, here's this whiskey that's $200. People don't want that. They want the $15 bottle of whatever it was, Jim Beam or whatever the hell it was.
Johnny Walker.
Or Johnny Walker. There we go. Like, he uses that whole metaphor, and that's what they want. Movie studios are agnostic when it comes to content. So we're literary people. I mean, they just want to make something that will make them money. They don't care about anything else ultimately. So he's got this resentment that what people want.
They care about awards, winning awards, and I think that's probably more of why they go the route of, those types of black stories, is because for whatever reason, 12 Years a Slave wins awards, and
awards help make money. I don't know how to tell you this, but awards are a way of publicizing books or movies. If a movie wins an Academy Award, it's more likely to make more money. It's also a way of acknowledging people's hard work and not paying them more. That's why the Oscars got started a long time ago.
Netflix doesn't make more money if they win an Oscar. Like, it's not people like, oh, we're going to get more subscribers.
I don't know how Netflix makes money at all. Yeah, but
it's a big Ponzi scheme anyways. None of that makes any sense.
All Netflix wants you to do is stare at the screen, which is why they'll just send out money for anything as long as they get people logging in and paying the subscription fee. But that's all Netflix cares about. An award is just a way to, potentially make people care about their streaming platform and more likely to buy it. So there's this resentment. Like, if people wanted better stuff would do well, but people don't want that. And I think he's upset at his girlfriend for reading what he thinks is just crappy, book that has no merit, which he happened to write. And he's got this constant conflict. Plus, he's also kind of a jerk, and he has to reconcile that he is kind of a dick to people, and he's got a massive ego. And there's just all this tension there between his ego and what the mass wants, and it's fantastic. But yeah, he's a jerk to her. Like, she's reading a novel. Ultimately, it's not going to change her life one way or the other. She's just reading a book for a while, and she's doing it to hop on the cultural bandwagon because everybody else is reading it. It's probably not going to change her life one way or the other. It's just here's something I'm going to read for a couple of weeks or whatever. However long.
Yeah, and he's probably a good enough writer to make it at least a compelling novel.
Sure. It's like, you can get upset at, is Dan Brown the guy who did Da Vinci Code?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can be mad at that guy. Da Vinci Code is not high art by any stretch of the imagination, but that book did really well. People enjoyed reading it. People don't usually read that book. Okay. So I'm no doubt there are probably fancy, better, quote unquote, writers who look at the success it has and like, fuck people. Think of hipsters who get upset about certain music getting popular and thinking, screw this. My music's got way more artistic merit and the masses just throw it away. And then you date somebody who likes this other stuff better and it pisses you off. I don't know. I think it's a very human, real, authentic experience that he's got in his brain. And he's got to go through. And all this other stuff with his brother who's had been repressed his whole life because he's not been able to be gay, but then he's like also super unreliable and doing crazy stuff. He's doing a lot of coke and dudes all the time and maybe not being as reliable financially and emotionally as he could be. It's just all the stuff.
Sterling K. Brown is amazing in this movie. Yeah, he is like funny and
he's amazing in everything else and everything. Yeah. He's never been bad in anything that I've seen.
Sometimes I think he's at too high an octave. He's at like a 15 sometimes. I'm like, just you need to come down a little bit. But in this movie, it works because
it works really well.
He is out of control. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, he's like, well, do I accept you're who you are? But then it's also like, but I also need you to do the shit and like rein it in. But then if I ask you to rein it in, am I being the it's all that stuff works really well. Do we want to talk about the ending yet? Are we there yet? Or do we have some other stuff we want to cover? I mean, I think the top to bottom performances are all great. I like every performance in this movie. I don't think it's a bad one in it.
Well, just the only thing I wanted to say is I think the best part of the movie is some of the family stuff. I mean, you're right. You're touching on all the interesting ideas, which I know there's a thing you love about movies.
I do like ideas. I know because I'm a loser egghead dweeb who actually likes ideas. I know. It's
you sitting in your honor dorm. You like
liking ideas is for losers.
But I think the family stuff works really well. I think it's what holds the movie together.
Of course,
and it's the part I like the most.
Oh, the family stuff's crucial. I wouldn't want to get rid of it. The ideas work because it ties into the family, and of course, the irony is that we get, all these black characters who are these people aren't living in squalor. Right. They're doing pretty well off. We get
it's a movie about people, and they happen to be black, and I think that,
but that it ties in with these other issues that are really interesting and abstract and compelling. But you have to have the family drama. That's what makes everything go. It ties it all together.
And it's something to the movie's point, it's something you don't see that often in major motion pictures. Yeah.
And you get it. And they have their problems, but their problems aren't specifically we're enduring oppression. It's a mother who's got dementia, which is a human experience that a lot of people have. It's brutal. Death of his sister. And then a brother
an older couple falling in love.
Sure. Yeah.
That you rarely see in movies, and the fact that his own relationship doesn't work out is something that doesn't often happen in movies either.
Yeah. Things don't tie up in a neat little bow at the end. Everything isn't just magical. Well, I mean, we get to the end, but yeah, that's true. It kind of screws up the relationship.
Yeah. So in the ending, he goes up to accept the award for Stagger Lee, the pen name that he was using. And it cuts to black. And then you see he's actually talking to a producer about this movie that we just saw, I think. And the producer wants the movie to end in a certain way, a little bit less ambiguous. So he comes up with an idea of meeting Coraline, his love interest, and then wrapping that up in a little bow. But then the producer thinks that's too much like a romantic comedy, and comes in with something else, he wants something else, and so Jeffrey Wright's character comes up with a pretty funny ending to the movie where he accepts the award, and the FBI comes in because he's a wanted fugitive and sees the award in his hand and says he's got a gun and guns him down. And then you see it from the perspective of overhead shot of him getting shot multiple times and lying in a pool of his own blood. And that's the ending that the producer wants.
Yeah. The producer wants to make like what will make this movie make me the most money. It reminded me a little bit of the ending of The Player. I don't know how well. I don't know. Have you seen The Player before, Kevin?
About 30 years ago, yeah.
Okay. Well, like one of the subplots is that he's producing a script which is going to be this like artsy film about the death row, a little bit of Dead Man Walking, but it's going to be really have a sad, tragic ending with a woman wrongly put to death for a crime she didn't commit. And by the end, that movie has turned into an action sequence with Julia Roberts and Bruce Willis, who busts in and saves the day at the end. It gets corrupted by the capitalistic movie process to give people an ending that'll leave them feeling happy that they went to the theater. This is like the flip side of that. They want it to be that bad that there's horrible irony that he's murdered because they think he's this fictional thug.
Yeah, and it shows how quickly Monk would actually sell out, because his original ending idea wasn't accepted, and then he quickly comes up with some stupid ending that
he's like, what's a dumb way to end this? Oh, and they love it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't care for it.
The ending?
The double ending, the fake out ending, this is a movie and let's fix the ending for the movie. I didn't care for that.
Why not?
Took me out of it. Took me out of the whole story.
See, they made a bad call. They made this movie less interesting to you because they went too abstract and fourth wall.
Yeah.
You don't want to be reminded that you were watching a movie at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, that happened at the very end. So, I mean, maybe that might have been a problem.
Because we're already doing it where he's getting hired to write a movie, and then then we're cutting as if that was already the movie he's writing. So it was just confusing to me. So theoretically, they're watching a movie about a guy who's writing a movie, right?
Like adaptation or something?
You're right. It jumps into the adaptation, which I love adaptation, but that's like the conceit from the beginning is like the whole thing is about that. This is just sort of thrown in there at the very end just to confuse you.
I don't think it's thrown just to confuse you. And the fact that it's at the end isn't a problem because, yeah, it takes you out of it, but the movie's over. So taking you out of it at the end isn't a problem. If they did something like this in the middle of the movie, that would be jarring. It'd be tough to get back into the family drama at that point. You'd lose it, I think. But I think the same artistic and capitalistic, tension is there for ending this actual movie. How do they cap it? How do they if they fall in love at the end, it's a romantic comedy ultimately. If
it had the ambiguous ending of fading to black, smash cut to black, how would you feel about that, Eric?
Yeah, that's better. Look, then we're not like, oh, well, this is a movie and let's redo it and fix it and write a different ending. I never liked that type of thing.
It ruins the illusion of the escapism of the movie for you. I got you, Eric. It's fine. I don't have that problem, but I understand that if you want to be taken away in the magic of movies and then you highlight that you're actually watching a movie that...
Yeah, he's not Deadpool where he's commenting on the movie. Where
well, right, but this is the very end and there's just trying to figure out how to end it. I mean, I think there's a literally how do we end this narrative?
It raises questions. So the whole time, what are we watching then?
You're watching a movie. It's a fictional movie. It's a movie. It's made up. Yeah, it's entirely made up by somebody. None of it's real. In the same way that all the Avengers movies are fake, that none of them are real. And it's trying to figure out how do we end this narrative. Do we
What?
make it happy?
Mystery Men was a documentary, though.
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah. There's this crime fighting troupe in the late '90s in Champion City. I mean, I don't. Yeah, that's not off-putting for me. The way they did it isn't off-putting. I mean, we're dealing with the fact this is a movie within a movie, I guess. How do you end it? How do you end this particular the actual movie? What do? Do you leave him happy? Does he reject his success? Mrs. I mean, ultimately,
well in a throwaway line, he says what he actually did was just walk out, and he didn't say anything to anybody. And so that's what happened in the real life part of the movie.
Well, what's interesting is the guy that wrote this movie. Didn't he win an Oscar for
best adapted screenplay?
It's great. The screenplay is immaculate. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I really like the sort of meta version of how he wrote I wonder if he sat down as a struggling writer and was like, I'll write the thing that I think people want me to write, but I'll do it as if it's like a writer doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I bet he had a thought is like, I bet if I wrote a black movie, it'd get made and, I might win an Oscar. If I wrote Moonlight, all of a sudden now I'm this big filmmaker, but I don't want to do that. So I'll write about a writer that does that.
Well, I think he's also working through his own intentions and feelings, right?
Sure,
I'm a writer. Yeah, but I'm trying to work through this, so I'm going to make my character a writer and wrestle with the things I'm wrestling with.
Or he had his agent like, hey, can you write maybe more black movies? Because he said he worked on
Succession,
TV shows,
Station 11.
And they're like, can you write a more black movie? And that probably happened to him, I would imagine. There's probably some experience that he went through. And I that's the part that I like thinking of the guy that wrote it and his life.
Well, the original story is by, this was written in 2001, the story that it's based on, right? So also a different landscape 20 some years ago. But I assume, right? Like, this guy's I'm not Sidney Poitier. And the Thieves probably was pretty frustrating in 2001. I think it was probably even worse. There were probably even less broader stories about people of color in that time frame. And then Cord Jefferson wrote this screenplay. And threw in some stuff that he's probably dealing with as somebody who works in media. I'm sure he's got some really dumb notes from studio executives for how they want things to go.
Yeah, clearly the author of this film does not have a high opinion of like literary executives or film executives or agents or
sure.
I mean, his agent is I like that character a lot. He obviously seems like he knows what he's doing, but the producers or the people buying the materials, they're all dummies and.
He also criticizes the masses because that's part of the problem. That's why he resents the consumer. Because ultimately, people are,
the white consumer.
Sure, but he's also upset he's also upset at his girlfriend who is not white. For like contributing to it. But yes, if they're the ones that are buying the books, then those are the books that'll get purchased. And just so you know, Eric, 12 Years a Slave costs, I had to look this up, it's bothering me, costs approximately $22 million to make, and it netted $187 million at the box office.
Oh, wow. It was a big hit. Wow.
I mean,
that seems like a different universe. Because if that happened now.
This was a decade ago. Yeah, this is. But that was absolutely.
They don't even show that in the theaters now. If it comes, there's no way that's a theatrical release. I would highly doubt it.
Oh yeah,
be buried in streaming somewhere or something.
It'd be a straight to Netflix or something like that. Yeah.
But even American Fiction, this movie cost $10 million to make, and it made 23, which is, that's a success. I'm sure they didn't have much of a marketing budget, so good, but it's not like a smash hit. But they kept it cheap.
The Oscar nomination helped, I think. Right to your point, you get an Oscar nom, it helps ticket sales, and
sure. That's part of it. I watched this a couple months ago on a date night. My wife picked it out. She'd heard about it from like award season. Like, let's watch it. And it's great. It's really fun. I mean, let's get to the comedy question here, because you have such you've this like, it's very comedy seems so binary for you. It's like either you find it funny and you're on board, or you don't and you're completely out. Did you laugh at any point during this movie?
Oh yeah, I thought it was very funny. Like I said, I thought Sterling K. Brown was hilarious. I mean, some of the best jokes in the movie, I think, are in like the trailers and stuff. So a lot of that stuff I had seen, but yeah, I thought it was definitely funny, and I laughed for sure.
Oh, good. Yeah, man, I love the scene early on when they're trying to put the sister's ashes in the ocean, and some dorky dude walks by. He's like, "Do you ever permit that?" Shut the
Get
fuck
the
up.
fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, Dave, or what did they do the guy to?
I'm so sick of your bullshit, Dave. Get out of here.
yeah.
No, there's a few moments. No, it's really funny. I mean, it's they laugh a lot. This is very, very good. I don't know. I mean, I if anybody hasn't seen it, I would recommend watching it. It's smart, funny, well written, really, really good time. It's not a bunch of black characters just suffering under white oppression. They're dealing with a lot of real stuff. A lot of other stuff going on. It's great. I don't know how much else to say other than 2 thumbs up from this guy.
Yeah, I give it it's like a 3.5, 4-star movie for me. I liked it a lot. Thought it was very funny and touching. There was the ending I really didn't care for, and some of it was a little heavy-handed towards the white people are dumb. I mean, there was
it's less that they're dumb. It's more like they just only care about medicating their own guilt.
Yeah.
Well, what about the jury panel for the book? They were like, it's very important for us to listen to black voices during this time. The white lady says that. Meanwhile, the 2 black people in the room were being ignored because they hated the book. So,
yeah, I mean, that's like, to my point earlier, is because all the white people in this movie are stupid, and
it's not that they're stupid. I did just, that's such a weird framing. It's not that they're stupid.
Ignorant. They're ignorant.
Sure, and that's fine. If that's hard for you to reconcile with in a movie, that's too much.
There's not one white character in this movie that's like gets it at all.
I guess. I mean, there's not that many white characters in it. There's the 2 people who want to,
which is fine, because I mean, for how many decades and 100 years now, we've had just black characters as token characters that just pop in for one purpose, and this movie has token white characters that pop in for one purpose, just to be ignorant and to be the butt of a joke, which is fine, because again, how many decades and basically the entire history of cinema, we've seen black characters be that. So I'm not saying it's like offensive to me as a white person, but I'm just saying, like, it was a bit much of that. There was quite a bit of that, just token white characters in there, just to show how ignorant and how they didn't understand what was happening.
Well, they didn't care. I don't know. That's to me, every white character, that they don't actually care. The white college student at the beginning, she doesn't actually listen to the black one. She doesn't care. It's about her feelings. The people who do listen to are the ones that they care about making money. It's the 2 people who concede that it should be named Fuck, because that's what the guy wants it to be called. I don't know. This is a 5 out of 5 movie. I don't think this movie has a flaw. I think it's funny, super well written. I like the ending a lot, actually. It took me out of the movie when it should, because the movie's ending anyway. Credits are about to roll. And it just added, like, well, how do the story end? What would be a good way to end? Life is a lot more boring. I left the room. Nobody said anything to me. That's how a lot of stuff works. There was no dramatic confrontation. Well, what do we think? What is this person paying to make the movie think? What are they paying? I liked it. I didn't see any flaws. There wasn't really a bad scene in it, a bad sequence. Performances are all great. The script is incredible. Anyway, it's a 5-star one for me. Mr. Kevin.
I give it 4.5. I really enjoyed the monk character. I liked how he was sort of unlikable and curmudgeonly, with a huge ego, and he was a flawed character, but I thought that made the movie better. Yeah, he wasn't always easy to root for.
No, he's kind of a jerk. He's a jerk to Issa Rae.
Reminded me a lot of the Giamatti character in Sideways. If you guys have ever seen the movie Sideways.
Sure.
Yeah, he's very pretentious about wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess Monk is pretty pretentious about his own writing and the significance of it. I personally felt that some of the family drama dragged on a little bit towards the end. The older couple that got together, their only purpose was to bring everyone together. At the end.
Oh, the maid, I guess, was she a maid or housekeeper?
Yeah. Yeah, her and Maynard it was nice to see an older couple falling in love, but it wasn't really necessary except for plot mechanics, I guess.
Sure.
But otherwise, it was a stellar movie, really funny. I enjoyed the satire, and the performances were all A+, up and down. I could see why. I think Sterling K. Brown was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I can see why that was. Yeah.
There was, I think, a lot of push that he might win, but then Robert Downey Jr. kind of came in and slammed
your
dunked
movie
it.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
The traditional black film Oppenheimer. Actually,
was even a single black character in there?
I don't think there is a single black character in that entire
No Japanese characters either. Mr. Nolan, certified racist. You got him. We got him.
I mean, really, is John David Washington in Tenet like the only black character he's ever had in a movie? Morgan Freeman in the Batman movies,
the Dark Knight trilogy, sure.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's really it. Like, there's not a lot of black characters in his films.
No,
or just black actors. Just
Nope, that's true. There's a lot. There's a one. Isn't one of the astronauts black in Interstellar?
Yes. David Aiello, the guy that played MLK.
Yeah. Yes, there we go.
There's a deep cut right there.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, Universal, it's worth a watch. Streaming. Check it out. It's a good time. Well, fellas, let's start. Let's dive into
Ben,
it.
what are we watching next? Unless you got, Kevin, anything else you want to say about American Fiction?
Let's see. The performances were great. I love the soundtrack as well. It was jazz music. I love jazz. It really played all the right notes for me. He had all the right notes. So
yeah, because his name was he was named after what?
Thelonious Monk. Yeah.
Thelonious Monk. Yeah.
Yeah, Monk was his nickname. Beautiful stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Ben. Let's hear what you got.
Fine. We're going to the year 1973, year of our Lord. Back in the ancient times. Okay. Oh man, how do we want to? I think I'm gonna give you some obvious clues you're not going to know, but let's. I'll give you the genre. It's a documentary.
Oh boy.
From 1973.
Correct.
It's not like a Fitzcarraldo type documentary. It's a real documentary.
Yes, it's a quote unquote real documentary. Although, I mean, I guess put a pin in that. But yes, I think we'd call it a real documentary.
Is it did we talk about this? Is it the documentary about making that movie with the boat that went down the hill?
That's Fitzcarraldo.
Fitzcarraldo is the movie. I don't remember what the Ship of Dreams or something like that it was. But no, it's not that. That's I think the 80s. I think you're a decade off. I'll give you a couple more like random hits.
Well, then I'll try to get a little more specific. I don't know that it'll help you. This is semi-obscure. Anyway, so it's got special participants in the documentary. Howard Hughes is uncredited. Peter Bogdanovich is uncredited. Just to name a couple. Joseph Cotton. That gets you closer.
So about filmmaking?
It's not F is for fake or something like that?
F for fake. That's it. That's exactly it. I was about to reveal that it was Orson Welles as the director and the writer. F for fake.
Yeah, it's a brilliant movie.
Never heard of it.
It's on Max streaming. So it's about apparently a French con artist, something like that. I don't know that much about it. I listened to a podcast that referenced it a long time ago. It's been in the back of my brain as something to watch at some point, and it seems like now felt like the right move to watch it. It's not very long, 88 minutes on Max. Directed, heavily featuring Orson Welles. It was when he was doing a lot of weird stuff because he couldn't get a lot of expensive stuff made. So, F for fake.
Yeah, Orson Welles, one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live. Touch of Evil.
Yeah.
Obviously, Citizen Kane. And this is an excellent movie for what it is.
I hope
Is
you don't
it a
hate Eric.
documentary? I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what it's labeled as. We can talk about the classification if we think that that's not super accurate. But I don't want you to hate it, Eric. I hope you like it. I hope the fact that it's Orson Welles leave you able to engage with it, Eric. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
So, all right. F for fake is what we're talking about next week.
Thanks for listening.